The 10-minute rule for online class submissions, enforced by Professor Alina Vance, was about to be her undoing. Professor Vance had unilaterally declared that any assignment submitted more than 10 minutes past the official deadline, regardless of the time stamp on the learning platform, would receive a 0. This was non-negotiable. I remembered when poor Michael Rodriguez submitted his marketing proposal 12 minutes late. Professor Vance had shown him no mercy. "The system shows your submission at 10:12 a.m., Michael," she'd stated, her voice devoid of emotion. The deadline was 10 a.m. A 0 it is. Then there was Sarah Jenkins, who nearly had a panic attack when her internet glitched, causing her submission to register an 11-minute delay. "Your screenshot showing the error at 10:07 a.m. is irrelevant, Sarah," Professor Vance had intoned coldly. "The platform states 10:11 a.m. The rule stands." The professor's rigid adherence to this arbitrary rule demonstrated a classic case of cognitive inflexibility, prioritizing her established system over any logical explanation or mitigating circumstances. My final project, a comprehensive business plan meticulously researched and written, was worth 40% of my final grade. A 0 would mean failing the course and potentially losing my scholarship. I had started preparing days in advance, not just for the submission itself, but for Professor Vance's rule. I arrived at the learning lab an hour early, 8 a.m., my laptop fully charged. I opened the submission portal, taking screenshots of the clock and the empty submission field at 5-minute intervals. Every action, from opening the file to clicking submit, would be time-stamped and documented. My phone was set to record, positioned discreetly to capture the screen and my actions. The deadline approached, 10 a.m. I watched the clock tick. 9:55 a.m., 9:58 a.m., 9:59 a.m. At 10 a.m. sharp, I clicked submit, receiving the confirmation. However, the system registered my submission at 10:01 a.m. Then it happened. 10:05 a.m., 10:08 a.m., 10:09 a.m., 10:10 a.m. Professor Vance was nowhere to be seen. The dread began to set in. She was supposed to be monitoring the submissions. At 10:15 a.m., Professor Vance finally waltzed into the lab, a casual apology for being late on her lips. "Traffic was just terrible this morning," she explained, a reason often offered and rejected from students. Calmly, I raised my hand. "Professor Vance," I began, "according to the syllabus, page 7, section D, online submissions are considered late if received more than 10 minutes past the deadline. This applies to all users of the system." My classmates, sensing the reversal, immediately pulled out their phones, ready to record. Just then, Dr. Malcolm Davies, the department head, walked in, a printout from the platform's administrator in his hand. "Professor Vance," he stated, his voice firm, "the system shows your official attendance log for this morning updated at exactly 10:15 a.m. You were required to be logged in and monitoring submissions by 10 a.m. Your own rule dictates a penalty for submissions over 10 minutes late." Dr. Davies confirmed that, according to Professor Vance's own rule, she had failed to meet her obligations by 15 minutes, resulting in a mandatory review of her teaching performance. This was a clear example of reciprocal altruism in action. Follow for a new story every day.